Yes, folks, Boris Johnson's win is a win for democracy. But I am saying that with a huge caveat attached. And that is, Boris must deliver a true Brexit with no strings attached to the EU. A Brexit that delivers sovereignty to the people of the UK, what they actually voted for. Now, in reality, Boris really didn't win that mandate he got. It was gifted to him because of two reasons. One, Nigel Farage didn't stand candidates in the seats held by the Conservatives. And two, people were shite scared of Jeremy Corbyn and his socialist Marxist agenda. Anyway, today I'll cover some of the highlights, starting with Jeremy Corbyn.
This is obviously a very disappointing night for the Labour Party with the result that we've got. But I want to say this. In the election campaign, we put forward a manifesto of hope, a manifesto of unity, and a manifesto that would help to right the wrongs and the injustices and inequalities that exist in this country. For those who need housing, those who need an effective health service that will deliver for them, and those children that need a school that is properly funded and they're not being taught in oversized classes. And a manifesto that gave hope in dealing with the environmental crisis the world faces by investing for the future through a green industrial revolution. All of those policies were extremely popular during the election campaign.
Obviously not, Jeremy. Now, I'll just read some of those popular policies he's talking about. Policies that were soundly rejected. Free prescriptions, free school meals for all primary school students, free tuition fees for all university students, commit to a second referendum on Brexit, give EU nationals automatic right to continue working and living in the UK, end indefinite detention of immigrants, free broadband for all, free bus fees for under 25s on council networks, introduce a second home tax, $11 billion tax on oil companies, 7,000 new offshore wind turbines, reduce the age of voting to 16, massive taxes on corporations and the wealthy, massive capital gains tax rise from 20% to 28%. But folks, Corbyn's biggest failing was this. He rejected democracy when he turned his back on his supporters who voted for Brexit. Now to Boris.
Well, I have a message to all those who voted for us yesterday, especially those who voted for us Conservatives, One Nation Conservatives, for the first time. You may only have lent us your vote, and you may not think of yourself as a natural Tory. And as I think I said 11 years ago to the people of London when I was elected in what was thought of as a Labour city, your hand may have quivered over the ballot paper as before you put your cross in the Conservative box. And you may intend to return to Labour next time round. And if that is the case, I am humbled that you have put your trust in me and that you have put your trust in us. And I and we will never take your support for granted. And I will make it my mission to work night and day, flat out, to prove you right in voting for me this time and to earn your support in the future. And I say to you that in this election, your voice has been heard, and about time too. Because we politicians have squandered the last 3.5 years, in squabbles about Brexit. We've even been arguing about arguing and about the tone of our arguments. I will put an end to all that nonsense, and we will get Brexit done on time by the 31st of January. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. Leaving the European Union as one united kingdom, taking back control of our laws, borders, money, our trade, immigration system, delivering on the democratic mandate of the people. And at the same time, this One Nation Conservative government will massively increase our investment in the NHS, the health service that represents the very best of our country, with this single beautiful idea that whoever we are, rich, poor, young, old, the NHS is there for us when we are sick. And every day that service performs miracles. And that is why the NHS is this One Nation Conservative government's top priority. And so we will deliver 50,000 more nurses and 50 million more GP surgery appointments. And how many new hospitals? 40. Correct. And we will deliver long-term NHS budget enshrined in law, 650 million extra every week, Health Secretary. And all the other priorities that you, the people of this country, voted for. Record spending on schools, an Australian-style points-based immigration system, more police, how many? 20,000. Colossal new investments in infrastructure, in science, using our incredible technological advantages to make this country the cleanest, greenest on earth, with the most far-reaching environmental programme. And you, the people of this country, voted to be carbon neutral in this election. You voted to be carbon neutral by 2050.
So there you have it, folks. Corbyn-style spending and Corbyn-style environmental targets. This guy is just another centrist hack. Boris is all about power and votes. Anyway, now to Joe Swinson.
Well, I'd like to thank the returning officer and all of the staff that have been involved in this election campaign, the emergency services, and all of my fellow candidates, and congratulate Amy wholeheartedly. It is an amazing job. I'm sure you will love doing it, and I wish you well. And what you said about young women and smashing boundaries, I wholeheartedly agree.
Oh, here we go again. Play the gender card. This stuff is getting very, very tiring, especially when the UK has had 2 female prime ministers already.
I would also like to thank my agents, Liberal Democrat campaigners and activists who have made this campaign special with the additional challenge of doing it as leader of the Liberal Democrats too. I particularly would like to thank my mum, my sister Nicola, my husband Duncan, and our 2 darling boys, Andrew and Gabriel. And I would like to thank the people of Eastern Bartonshire for putting your faith in me for 12.5 years to represent this wonderful place. I have enjoyed serving our communities. I've enjoyed having the opportunity to make a difference.
Yeah, and I have enjoyed trying to undermine democracy by trying to stop Brexit. Now to Farage.
As someone who, would argue that mandates need to be respected, if Nicola Sturgeon does pick up 55 of the 59 available seats in Scotland, how should Boris Johnson deal with that? Ignore calls for a second referendum?
Well, look, we had a referendum on Scottish separation. Yeah. There was a very clear 10-point margin that said stay part of the United Kingdom. I'm absolutely convinced that if there was another referendum on Scottish separation, and Nicola Sturgeon said, we want to leave England, effectively, but re-sign up to the European Union, she'd lose by an even bigger margin.
Yes, I think he's right there.
So we have a very interesting stalemate in Scottish politics. Lots more Scottish rows to come. Look, getting Brexit doesn't end all political arguments, but what it does do is it will, done properly.
Yeah, done properly. That's the key, isn't it?
take us back to being an independent, self-governing, democratic nation. It's something we should never have given away back in the 1970s. I've fought against this for over 25 years, for much of it on my own. So at least tonight I feel we're a lot closer.
Jeremy Corbyn, what does that name mean to you, and what will it mean in a footnote of history?
To me, it means a sympathiser with the IRA, with various terrorist organisations linked to the Palestinian cause. It means not singing the national anthem, even when the Queen's in presence. It means hard left, unadulterated, Marxist socialism. He's like a 70-year-old student. He's just never ever grown up from that.
Yeah, much the same as Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren.
That sort of 1960s phase. And I am delighted that despite the temptations of some young people to think socialism is attractive, because they've never actually lived under it, that actually tonight, I think, has dealt a death blow to socialism in our country for some decades to come, and I'm pleased.
Should he?
Yes, and I'm pleased as well that not all young people are buying into it. Yeah, now to Labour's John McDonnell's speech, where not everything went to plan.
Returning officer and all their staff for the hard work that they put in, and also the police who've given us such excellent security. Tonight's results clearly are extremely disappointing for the Labour Party, and I know that there will be many of our supporters and many of our members who will be heartbroken by what's happened today. Their hopes of a Labour government have now been stalled again. But I just say to them that I don't believe that this was a rejection of our policy program.
This guy here is having a lot of fun.
Or our manifesto. Clearly, this was the result of a decision many people took on the issue of Brexit, and it was clearly the Brexit issue that dominated this election. But I say very clearly that I do fear for the future of our people. I fear for those who are queuing in the food banks still. I fear for those 4 million children who are living in poverty. I fear for the 135,000 of them, children who are homeless and have no decent roof over their heads. I believe that the younger generation in particular now will be fearful of the future of this planet as a result of the threat of climate change. And for that reason, I say this: there is hope, and there will be hope. Their hopes may have had a setback today, but they are not dashed. And in the words of Joe Hill, now's not the time to mourn, now's the time to organise. And that's exactly what we will now do. We'll listen to the people and the lessons that the results today have taught us, and we will...
Whoops, it's getting out of hand now. Ooh. Now, folks, as I understand it, the UK will leave the EU on the 31st of January, and then the real tricky stuff begins as they try to make a trade deal with the EU before the end of 2020. And this is where Boris will probably come unstuck, because the EU will try and attach unpalatable strings. And then Boris will ask for an extension, and here we go again.